Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or whenever you're watching this right now. Welcome to another virtual edition of Children's Church. Let's get to it. Last week, we learned how Saul was chosen by God through Samuel to be Israel's king, the king that they wanted. The king that they really shouldn't have wanted because they wanted to be like every other nation, which was a major problem. But they wanted a king, and God said that he would give them a king. And sure enough, he showed Samuel through this weird situation with these missing donkeys exactly who the king was to be, Saul. And this was a secret, right? Nobody else knew except for Samuel and Saul. They were the only two people in the entire world that knew who the next king would be. But today, the people are going to discover who it is that God has chosen. And it's not just Samuel telling them, there's something else that goes on. Now remember, nobody in Israel knows that God has already chosen the king and that Samuel knows who this is. Samuel knows and Saul knows, but nobody else in Israel knows. So the time has come for Samuel to choose the king. And he gathers up everybody in Israel. He's like, everybody come gather around. Like all the different families, thousands of people, they're all gathering together to decide who is going to be king. And Samuel tells the people that this king is going to be chosen by casting lots. So casting lots, that's not something that we say a lot. It's kind of like, like flipping a coin, or doing eeny, meeny, miny, mo, or rolling dice, or pulling the shortest straw out of a bunch. Have you ever done that before? You have one short straw and the rest are long, and whoever gets the short straw has to do that kind of a thing, all right? So he gathers everybody together, and he gets some rocks, most likely, and he starts writing down each of the tribes, like the tribe of Benjamin and Judah and all these different tribes. And then eventually he throws them, and the ones that land up, he might choose those until he gets it narrowed down to just one tribe. And then from that tribe, he gets all the families, writes them down, and until it comes out that they get that one family. And he keeps on doing this until he gets all the way down to Saul's family. And when he finishes casting those lots, guess who it lands on. All right, let's read what actually happened in this story, because lesson number 1 of today, don't just believe what another person tells you about the Bible or about God because they say it and they seem like they know it. You need to actually read the Bible for yourself and find out if what they said is actually true, because sometimes a lot of times, people say that they know the Bible and that they're preaching the truth, but they're actually not. So you gotta be careful out there, all right? Be careful. Be careful, you people in the screens. All right, anyways, here we go. 1 Samuel chapter 10, verse 17. Now Samuel called the people together to the Lord at Mizpah. And he said to the people of Israel, "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, I brought up Israel out of Egypt, and I delivered you from the hand of the Egyptians and from the hand of all the kingdoms that were oppressing you, that were warring against you. But today you have rejected your God, who saves you from all your calamities and your distresses, all of your troubles. And you have said to him, set a king over us. Now, therefore, present yourselves before the Lord by your tribes and by your thousands." Whew. Samuel reminded the people that day, as they were deciding that they wanted to be like every other nation around them, they wanted one of those kings, and one of those kings and their armies would protect them, that they were saying to God, we don't trust you, and we don't want to follow you because we think that every other nation has the right thing going on, that they're doing the right things, and we're just going to turn from you and turn towards them. This hurt God deeply. And he reminds them, hello, don't you remember the amazing things that I've done for you? Do you not remember when you were back in Egypt and you were slaves in Egypt and I delivered you with all those crazy miracles that were happening and parted the Red Sea, all that stuff? Don't you remember? But so quickly we forget and we look at others around us and say, but what they're doing and what they're saying seems to make sense, and we don't turn and follow God, which is so sad. Actually, you guys are gonna read that story about the Egyptians this week. If you followed the Advent devotional that Pastor Aaron's been putting together, which is so good. You guys should definitely do that with your families. It's such a cool way to see how all of Scripture was pointing forward to the coming of Jesus and get you ready for Christmas, which is great. But back to this. All right, so Samuel gathers all of Israel together and begins casting lots so that they can choose who is going to be king. Verse 20, then Samuel brought all the tribes of Israel near, and the tribe of Benjamin was taken by lot. Which it wasn't taken, it was like they decide on the tribe of Benjamin by casting the lots. But anyways, verse 21. He brought the tribe of Benjamin near by its clans. So all these different family clans are in Benjamin. And the clan of, drumroll please, I can't speak, the Matrites was taken by lot. All right, so here we go. This clan, the Matrites, I don't know how to say it. They're all gathered together. Can you imagine it? All of the young men and older men are probably like around standing there wondering, are they going to be chosen? Mothers and wives are hoping and praying, God, please let my husband or my son be chosen to be king. Everybody is anxious and nervous and excited. And bigger drum roll. And Saul, who we already knew, Saul, the son of Kish, was taken by lot. They figured it out. Saul was the lucky person, which wasn't really lucky because God already told Samuel it was going to be Saul. But sure enough, as they were casting lots, rolling these dice, sure enough, Saul's name gets chosen. He is going to be king. And he's Saul? Saul?
Bueller? 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 Bueller?
They were looking for Saul, but he was nowhere to be found. Why would he be hiding? I mean, he was about to be chosen to be king, and he knew it. The other people didn't know it was going to be him, but Saul knew it was going to be him, so why would he not be there? Was he afraid or something? Was he scared? Why would he be scared? I mean, maybe it's scary because, a king, that's like a lot of responsibility, and like everybody would know who you are, and you'd be famous, but you'd also be rich and wouldn't be happy. Maybe it's even scarier than we think. Now that I think of it, do you remember at the beginning when Samuel first started talking to the people before he chose who the king was going to be? He wasn't exactly happy that the people wanted a king just like every other nation around them, right? He wasn't happy at all because he knew that the people were rejecting God. They decided that they weren't going to put their trust in God, they weren't going to follow and obey him, but rather they were going to do their own thing, which is what people have done for like ever and keep messing up and doing. But regardless, he was not happy. So if Samuel was choosing this person to be king, like you're being chosen to be king, but clearly God's not happy with it and Samuel's not happy with it either. And then, you know what? Samuel used lots to choose the king. He was casting lots. There was another time in Israel's past where they also cast lots. And that wasn't a happy story either. You remember the story of Jericho, right? Where the Israelites, after they were freed from Egypt, they were going to the promised land eventually, and they came across the city of Jericho, and they needed to defeat Jericho because they were in the promised land, but they had those huge walls, a very strong city, and so God told them just to walk around the walls 7 times over the course of 7 days, and then the 7 times, whatever. But God said you just walk around, blow some trumpets, and the whole thing's coming down. And he also told them that when they got into the city, they weren't supposed to take anything for themselves. Well, they blew the trumpet. That's not a trumpet, but sure enough, the walls did come down, and it was absolutely amazing. Well, there was one guy named Achan. What's up, guys? It's your boy Achan. That's right, I'm here inside of Jericho. Inside Jericho, because we just destroyed this place. Well, technically we just walked around the walls and blew some trumpets and God did everything. But still, we just destroyed this place. It was epic. You should have been here. Oh, whoa. Well, what do we have here? A little treasure. Don't mind if I do.
I have a feeling something good's gonna be in here.
Whoa, dude, look at this stuff. A monkey paratrooper? This is big, right? I'm gonna give him a couple of them. There it is. Yo, don't tell any of the homeboys back home, alright? It's our little secret, alright? So Achan, he takes stuff that he's not supposed to take, and the next thing you know, Israel goes to battle in Ai after Jericho, and they lose, and like, why did we lose? And they figure out that's because somebody had sinned in the camp, and to figure out who had sinned, they cast lots, just like Samuel did. And the outcome when Achan was found out was not good, because him and his entire family get like swallowed up by the ground and die. So yeah, I guess if the people are sinning against God and Saul is the one who gets chosen when they're casting lots, maybe Saul was a little concerned that things were not going to end up well for him. I could see that. Either way, Saul has been chosen to be king, and he's nowhere to be found. So where is he? All right, so Saul is missing, and verse 22, they inquired again of the Lord, "Is there a man still to come?" And the Lord said, "Behold, he has hidden himself among the baggage." Or in other words, Saul is hiding in the trash heap. Like, just imagine like trash bags, like, covered up, and like, they're like tossing to the side looking for Saul. Saul, where are you? Where are you? And so sure enough, they do find him. It says, verse 23, they ran and took him from there. So they go to the trash heap, the baggage, and they find Saul and they take him back. They literally got their new king out of the trash. That's where they found their new king. That's a good, promising start. And then when he stood among the people, he was taller than any of the people from his shoulders upward. He was a tall, tall man. And Samuel said to all the people, "Do you see him whom the Lord has chosen? There is none like him among all the people." And all the people shouted, "Long live the king." This is an odd story. All right, so Saul was hiding. So I guess he wasn't exactly the most brave and courageous man. Now, he is very tall, which would maybe he's strong in some way, he's definitely, people can literally look up to him, right? But yeah, he was literally hiding in the trash. They got their king from the trash. They really think, these Israelites really think, they really believe that Saul is going to be the one who saves them and keeps them safe from any harm, rather than the God of the universe, the God of the universe who created everything and who saved his people from the Egyptians by sending down those hail and frogs and the locusts, and then splitting the Red Sea in two so that his people could walk across on dry land. The God of the universe who, just from his people walking around a city 7 times, brought down the walls of the city of Jericho, right? And allowed them to go into the promised land. This God, this super strong, caring, loving, gracious, forgiving God was no match for a man who was tall that was hiding in trash? The Israelites had everything backwards and upside down and in the worst way possible. We need to ask ourselves the same question that Israel needed to ask themselves. Who is it that we're going to trust? Are we going to choose to trust and follow God? Because it's not going to be easy to do that. He's going to ask us to do things that are really tough sometimes. or to do things that don't seem to make any sense. So are we going to trust God anyways because he loves us? He's the creator of all things. He even came down to earth as a baby to then grow up and die on a cross so that we could be a part of his family. I mean, he certainly seems trustworthy, but it's not always easy to follow him and do the right thing. And every day we need to ask ourselves, today, are we going to follow God or are we going to choose to turn away from him and do our own thing? And when we do start to go the wrong way and not follow God, we need to stop and we need to ask God for forgiveness. And guess what? He will forgive you. I mean, Jesus even forgave the people that were literally killing him. Like the people that put him on the cross as he was dying, he was forgiving them in that moment. And how much more will Jesus forgive you if you ask him for forgiveness? I mean, that's really, really awesome. But that doesn't mean we should just go on and sin. It doesn't really matter. God will forgive us. No, we shouldn't live in sin, but rather we should live to follow God because he loved us and we should love him right back. And he's definitely worth it. And he wants to use us in so many ways. Even right now, even as you're a kid, he wants to use you in your schools, in your families, in your neighborhoods, on your Zoom classes to spread the good news about Jesus to everyone. And so don't just go on sinning thinking that is no big deal, because it is a big deal. But also don't think that just because you messed up in a big way that God can't forgive you, because he definitely can and he definitely will if you trust in him. I'm going to teach you a new song today that's all about God's amazing love. Ready? It's amazing how you love me. It's amazing how you care. It's amazing how you're always thinking of me all the time. I searched the whole world over looking for the thing that I thought would fill my heart and ease my pain. I could climb the highest mountain or sail beyond the seas, but it always brings me back to you again. It's amazing how you love me, how you love me. It's amazing how you care, how you care. It's amazing how you're always thinking of me all the time. I've searched the whole world over, looking for the thing that I thought would fill my heart and ease my pain. I could climb the highest mountain or sail beyond the seas, but it always brings me back to you again. It's amazing how you love me, how you love me. It's amazing how you care, how you care. It's amazing how you're always thinking of me all the time. It's amazing how you love me. It's amazing how you care, how you care. It's amazing how you're always thinking of me all the time. It's amazing how you're always thinking of me all the time, everywhere. Nice job. So some takeaways. Number 1, God loves you. All right, don't forget that, because that's the most important one. Number 2, we should put our trust in God and follow him. And number 3, along that same line, it's because he's the creator of the universe. He loves us tremendously, and we were created to worship him. So when we're actually following God, then we are feeling complete and full. We're doing what we were made to do, because that's what we were made to do. We were made to worship God. Let's see. Number 4, when we do mess up, and you will mess up, ask God for forgiveness and he will forgive you. And number 5, even when we do mess out, don't think that God is now not going to use this or something like that, because even Israel, they've messed up in a huge way a bunch of times. But again, they've messed up in a huge way and turned their backs on God. But God, he's still at work. He is still working through the details, and his plan is going to come to fruition. We're going to see how God still makes, something out of this mess that they left, something beautiful out of this mess. Eventually, we'll see how that works out. All right, so this week, follow God, love Him, be nice to your brothers and sisters, be kind to your friends, follow your teacher's instructions. Actually show people that you love God and you want to follow Him, and by following Him, you can also follow and obey others. So yeah, do all those things, and I'll catch you next week. Sounds like a wrap. Let's do it.